Welcome to a new episode of Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid Ahmed.
In this episode, we're talking to Erol Ertumen. And here we have Erol Ertumen. He created I don't know if you can hear behind me. My son is repeating everything I'm saying.
That's added value, my friend.
That's added value. That's right.
It's added value, yes.
So Erol created the LinkedIn Facebook group, and it's been growing. And here we have Erol. Tell us more about the journey and how you came up about it.
Yeah, well, thanks, Junaid. Well, I have to say, too, I was really excited today. We got some really good, solid people. I've been focusing a lot on trying to actually network up and increase some of the overall branding of my brand, including LinkedIn Mastery. And I was real excited to get Robert Moore into our group, who's actually endorsed by Les Brown, just shared stage with Raymond Aaron and Bob Proctor.
Wow.
And so ultimately I got another, real solid entrepreneur that's in with a solid business, and it's been working on growing that group. So essentially the LinkedIn Mastery with 3 E's at the end instead of a Y.
Yep.
So LinkedIn Mastery, we've been focused on growing that. Sort of was an outcrop of the connecting that I've been doing here via LinkedIn. So, we initially connected, I think we initially connected actually at the LinkedIn Local. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We connected at the March LinkedIn Local here in Reston.
Yep. So been focused on LinkedIn for probably about 1.5 years, 2 years now, and really started getting a lot of traction starting last probably November, December. And in that process of really just digging into LinkedIn, learned quite a lot. And one of the value propositions that I started to kind of understand I could offer for entrepreneurs was helping them to get sort of results out of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And in that process of trying to understand how to create engagement and try to get results from LinkedIn myself, I kind of got more honed into my sort of target audience, which is entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And a big piece of this sort of growth on LinkedIn and trying to figure out how to get results myself, a big portion of that is this connecting piece, one-on-one.
Yeah.
So connecting via LinkedIn, hopping on calls, really understanding what people do, and then really focusing on trying to connect them to other people, to other resources, or ultimately trying to connect with what I do. And so as a way to sort of help pull people more together, as another way to continue the conversation, number one. As another area to just kind of really focus on trying to provide value. And then trying to deepen those relationships even more and sort of cross marketing the relationships, and as a gathering place for people just to go to and then get content, information, and have another place to focus on. LinkedIn came up with the idea of making this Facebook group, ultimately just another group, and from there putting in resources that entrepreneurs could get information from. The reason why I chose Facebook is because really at the moment the LinkedIn groups don't really work.
They don't work. Initially they didn't work, but I think recently LinkedIn upped their group game, but we still don't have live video on there.
Yeah, so I've heard about that. Have you spent much time, have you tried to build a group on LinkedIn yet, since they made those updates, or been interacting with anybody that's kind of building their groups in LinkedIn?
I haven't built a group myself, but I believe the LinkedIn Local Nova recently created the group, and when you log into the group, it almost looks like the LinkedIn's newsfeed. So they brought that new looking newsfeed to the group, so it's more organic communication between people, and each post can have comments and likes and whatnot.
Okay.
So they've brought that similar capabilities, and you can have the engagement similar to how you have with your entire network on LinkedIn, to bring that same ability to the groups. But again, LinkedIn is at a much younger stage compared to where Facebook's been and how long Facebook has been around.
Sure.
So Facebook groups do have a lot more breadth to them than LinkedIn would.
Interesting. Yeah, so now that I've had that group and it's been growing, my time has also changed a bit. Some of my ability to spend time on new projects has kind of shifted a bit.
Yeah.
So it's on my mind to kind of dig in a little bit more to LinkedIn groups.
Mm-hmm.
My schedule over the past probably 9 months has been very different than it is now.
Yeah.
And I had more time at that time to kind of build some structure. So I do plan to kind of check out the LinkedIn groups. But initially I kind of set it up there on Facebook. I have found it though helpful in one other respect to Facebook is that most of the people that are on LinkedIn also have a Facebook page.
Yeah.
A lot of people build those email lists, right, as a way to kind of stay in contact with people and to later on push out content that people are doing or information. And I almost feel like being connected both on LinkedIn and then also on Facebook, by having the Facebook group, it also is another avenue to kind of deepen on another platform.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of an interesting part of it too, when somebody's thinking about building out a group.
No, that's absolutely right. Building your community and building it out and having ability to engage with them is monumental. And I think Facebook, like you said, Facebook, and most people who are on LinkedIn and have LinkedIn businesses have their Facebook pages because they definitely have a larger reach into people's lives and be able to target even.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome, and I really like the engagement that you've created, and I know time commitment is a big thing. It all comes down to how much time can you dedicate, and based on the amount of time that you dedicate, will also will also create. I lost my train of thought.
They're talking about the amount of time spending.
So that's, I mean, especially for people who, or like for myself, this being my side hustle, right? It's much harder to focus the time and figure out what to do.
Well, it's interesting. I think the transition or the idea of this is a good thing to talk about, being that you have kids in the background.
Yeah.
So one of the things that probably is not being talked about enough, right, on LinkedIn, or in general with this entrepreneurship focus, what it really means, to start building when you have kids and when you are married, right? And
exactly.
when you're having to juggle really maintaining the family, right? Maintaining the family dynamic. If you commit too much time, you'll be taking time away from the relationship you have with your significant other. And
exactly.
And you also, if you're staying up too late or getting up too early, right?
Yeah.
It may affect your ability to stay present with your family, right? And this whole entrepreneurship thing, you hear Gary Vee, for example, talk about the amount of time committed, and you can give everything you've got to it, but ultimately other things are starting to suffer, right? Not only is entrepreneurship going to be something where you're, in the valley quite often because of the amount of time you're failing, but in addition, if you're having to try to, juggle the ups and downs of that and what that means for an entrepreneur, but then in addition, you're trying to manage this other family side.
Exactly.
Entrepreneurs that are just starting off at 20, right, or thinking of entrepreneurship, they have no commitments. It's a different ballgame. It's a different experience.
That is so true. That is so true. And those are the people that we're seeing a lot on LinkedIn, and they're popping up, and they're just finished college, or they're dropping out of college. They have so much time to dedicate to their one thing. And as married parents, right, you have kids, kids have activities that they need to go to, that you need to take them to, and they have school, and you got to help them with homework, and you got to make sure they get to bed on time, and sometimes it's really hard to say, all right, by the time I get my kids to bed, I'm so exhausted that I just want to eat dinner and just watch TV. But I would, what I should be doing is spending, sitting on the computer and creating these engagement with my community, and it's just really hard. So most of the time that I end up recording my podcast is on the drive, is when I'm driving to work or coming back from work to home, that's when I'm recording the podcast. And sure, on the weekend, I take some time out to do the editing on the podcast or go work on the bees and, spend time there. Again, it all comes down to, okay, what is going to give me the massive change? And that's why Gary Vee says, hey, if you want to grow your side hustle, you got to make it your full-time job. But again, it all comes down to, okay, how much compromise are you going to do in other parts of your lives?
Yep,
and
absolutely.
It's not talking about at all in any of the places that I've seen.
Yeah, like I connected. So one of the newer additions. So I know you're in LinkedIn Mastery too, and one of the newer additions. Wilton Rogers. So he just joined us, and so he's an entrepreneur. He actually, very interestingly, before Eric Thomas became really big, while Eric Thomas was still teaching at Michigan State. I interestingly found out that he one-on-one coached Wilton, and he was coaching him around 2008 when the real estate bubble burst. Right, he was into real estate, doing really well. Bubble burst, right, and he crashed and burned. Right, he crashed.
Wow.
And in working with Eric Thomas, he actually repositioned his business, and he went into fitness. He developed a fitness business.
Yeah. And
created. I think it was he mentioned a couple businesses. Really successful, sold them. He was going around and speaking and helping in a lot of different ways. And I still need to dig in more to really understand the whole story.
Yeah.
But what he told me is that as he got older, he got close to his 40s. He was, in this case, married, about to have kids. Like he has young kids now.
If you hold on a second, I have a crying baby I need to go get.
Sure. There you go.
Yeah. Deal. All right, I'm back.
All right.
This is the third one, right? So I have 8-year-old, a 3.5-year-old, and an 8-month-old baby. So one of them had to go for his class. And of course, our nanny leaves around 5 o'clock. So she was sleeping, but the middle child woke her up. So she was crying her lungs out. So I'll go pick her up. All right. So back to what you were telling us.
Yeah. So essentially, looking at the direction that he made, he ended up he was doing apparently a lot of speaking and doing a lot of travel. And essentially, as he kind of transitioned into his 40s, was kind of wanting to make a change because it wasn't as conducive to the type of family life that he wanted to have. Yeah. And shifted and now has got a completely different type of business. Nice. And in this case, business, he's got 15 sales reps and has a growing business, very much still an entrepreneur, but kind of shifted. Yeah. And so those are some kind of, some interesting dynamics as you kind of bring in family and you bring in kids and you kind of look at that amount of time you need to sacrifice and how you can kind of make these additional, this additional points of value. Yeah. That we wanted to create.
Yeah, that's so true. Everything takes that precedence. It's great that he was able to make the changes that he did, right? The type of life that we decided, because we all get to here, right? We all get to a point in our lives that makes us question, okay, what we're doing, is this something, is it something we want to do for the rest of our lives? And is it bringing in the dough and putting a roof on the top of our families? And if that's happening, then you slowly carve out that time, and it's very hard. And it's interesting that he was doing a lot of speaking engagements. So those speaking engagements, what they do is they help. There probably was something that he started off with, but then as you're doing one type of work and then you introduce more people in your life, everything changes. I mean, I'm just repeating everything you're saying. I'm so sorry. This is how we are, right?
No, it's all good. This is actually this conversation. I think this is a good example also of networking and opportunity. And
Yeah.
as I'm speaking with you about this now, I'm getting a little bit more clear in my mind of some other sort of directions or things that I want to explore. This, so from your experience of entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
from my experience of entrepreneurship now, some of the ideas that I'm getting more solid that I really want to focus on, I kind of think that from our experience, right, we may be able to speak a little bit more to entering entrepreneurship, with the family. There's so many different things to maybe be successful if you're kind of starting to move into entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
And you have the family.
Yeah.
Things like I'm really thinking right now at the moment about sort of what it takes to have a supportive spouse behind you. And essentially, they say that behind every great man is a great woman, right?
Yeah, it is so true.
There's so many things to kind of get into there that ultimately, maybe we need some other people that are speaking in terms of from that background, like how do you coach other, married men or other more established people with responsibilities to be able to pursue their dreams and to successfully navigate that without breaking their marriage, right?
Exactly.
Without alienating their kids.
Exactly.
I don't really know anybody that's speaking about that too much.
No. I mean, the only person that I know is speaking is about something similar was Gary Vee. He's telling how, you should tell your parents to not bug you because in the long run, they're going to appreciate what you're doing because, parents are a huge part of students' lives. A lot of the things that kids do, they have to make sure, okay, because, am I pleasing my parents? Am I doing things that meet their standards? And a lot of the times, I mean, why does majority of the Southeast Asian people like myself, like Pakistanis and Indians, and why do they go into medical and electronic and programming fields? And we don't see a lot of photographers. We don't see a lot of actors and a lot of like the arts type of thing. It's because of these, preconceived notions that if you want to make a lot of money, you want to make a life out of yourself, you go be a doctor, you go be an engineer, you go be a programmer. And that's why we have a majority of these, the Daisies, we call them, in these fields. But I mean, times are changing. There's a lot of Indian actors, a lot of Pakistani actors, and they are coming up. There's a lot of stand-up comedians and in different fields, in journalism and politics. Even attorney was another one. You go be an attorney, but nobody talked about politics. Because there's a lot of first generation Indians and Pakistanis coming to the United States. But you see a lot of changes when you see second and third generation Pakistanis there and going into totally different fields. They're going into basically whatever field they love to go into, and it all comes down to, okay, what did our parents raise us to be? I was just talking to my friend Ali yesterday, and he's into music, and he, it's not his primary thing that he does, but he loves playing guitar, he loves singing, and he's like, the only way I got into it is because he had some liberty and some openness from his parents' side. Like, I wanted to get into music, but my dad was like, no, we don't do music in our family.
Interesting.
This is over 25 years ago, of course. But then 10 years or 15 years ago, my brother, I, and this Ali that I was talking to, we got into music, and we did some music production, and then my brother took it, and he went like further than I did. And then my parents were okay. Like, okay, so when I wanted to get into it, right, then it was taboo, but now it's okay. So
that's so interesting. So now I'm curious. So this must be somewhat related to you doing this podcast and some of the hobby focus and kind of speaking related to kind of get the word out. There's a relation there, correct?
There is, yeah.
That's phenomenal, man.
Yeah.
I, it makes me think again with this family conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, even when I take a look at myself, so my wife is Bolivian, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit of a different culture. I grew up here. My father's from Turkey,
Uh-huh.
so I have kind of a blended. My mother was from the States. My father's
Yeah.
Turkish,
Yeah.
and my growing up, I kind of had a blended family growing up to an extent, although it's very
Mm-hmm.
much American.
Yeah.
Culturally raised Turkish.
Mm-hmm.
But being married now with my wife, that culture is a little bit different than the American culture. And
Yeah.
the concept of entrepreneurship. So my wife is actually a clinically trained dentist.
Okay.
So that's her background as professional.
Mm-hmm.
My father was an engineer,
Yeah.
and so ultimately, as I've growing up, I gravitated towards ideas and writing, and my mother encouraged me more with like writing and art. My father was into art too, but is very much focused professionally on he's an engineer.
Yeah.
And when I went to school, I decided to study philosophy and psychology. Still
Mm-hmm.
not a very practical studies. So
No.
I pursued ideas, and my
Yeah.
father was always asking, "What are you going to do when you graduate?" Right?
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I think we could go into more of those dynamics, but ultimately I gravitated more towards, I think the society here and the input from my mother, for example, kind of still encouraged me just to pursue my sort of ideas
What you
about
wanted to do.
art and writing.
Yeah.
As I've kind of pursued more of the entrepreneurship, it's also something where with my wife, there's a different kind of concept of income
It
and
is.
what the value is. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of kind of push back and forth. Though a lot of the value that I see in what I've been building entrepreneurially,
Yeah.
it's because it's not directly yet bringing in income.
Exactly.
There's a question of the value of the time, and I can definitely see a relation if you kind of, again, you're growing up under your parents' house, right?
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
the family is pretty much like you need to do something practical, but you have this desire to do something that's maybe less practical. And yeah, I can definitely see how there would be a conflict there, or like I see that. It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting.
And like you said, your dad's from Turkey and he was an engineer. Like that in itself shows, that people coming from that era or from that area to the United States, it's like into this thing. But yeah, man, this is a conversation that will never end because because growing up, right, we have so many different experiences, and it all comes down to what did my parents go into. Like I was not growing up into sports, right? So I didn't do a lot of sports growing up.
Okay.
Because my dad wasn't into it. Because I grew up in Saudi Arabia. The only sports that I did play were either in school or either with friends. I played some cricket, I played some soccer, but I was not very, very good at either one of them. And that's because my dad, he's a computer science analyst himself. So
Okay.
because he was into computers, I got into computers as well. And technology is one of my passions. And growing up, I did a lot of reading on technology, and a lot of the times I can't even, it's like hard to even remember where did I get all of this passion into these things, which it's really important. Like you said, your mom was open to you trying out these different things. And that's very important as parents to give all the opportunities that we can to our children, because essentially we are their mentors, right? The talk of mentorship comes up, and then talk of coaching, like some of the things that Gary Vee or even Tony Robbins mentioned, or I can't remember. I was listening to somebody, and they're like, professional athletes have coaches. They're so good because they have coaches. So you need a mentor. And
Right.
it's so true. And growing up, our mentors were essentially our parents and our teachers. And if they guided us in the right direction, then we become successful in those areas. So yeah, man, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Erol, it was really, really good talking with you. We definitely do need to do a part 2 and go deeper into the different things we have come up with and how we can add value to other people's lives and see where they can take it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
be good at it. And by the way, Rod was here earlier. We were talking about making some videos on basically tips on video, mobile video, and share it with the community. So he was saying hi.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, this was great, man. I'm looking forward to talking more and digging deep, because this is some of the stuff, right, we experience, and we have like parallel paths essentially. You gotta take kids. Like right now, I've got to head out to the parents teacher meeting or something. My wife's texting me. It's like, dude, we gotta go. I'm like, yes, I'm coming. So yeah, it's really awesome. We've moved a 40-minute time limit on your first group meeting. Well, thank you so much. So yeah, we've got we had a really good time talking on this podcast. Tell the audience where they can reach and get more information about Erol.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Junaid. So definitely best place to connect is going to be LinkedIn. So Erol, Erol, Ertumen, Ertumen on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. My Facebook group for entrepreneurs looking to get results out of LinkedIn is LinkedIn Mastery. I replaced the Y with 3 E's because my initials are EEE. So LinkedIn Master E.
Nice.
That'll be the best, 2 best places. So on LinkedIn, and then on Facebook, LinkedIn Mastery.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Erol. Really appreciate you chatting with me here on the podcast and connecting with you and, growing together in the future.
Yeah, absolutely, Junaid. Thanks so much for having me on. And keep on doing what you're doing. Looking forward to continue to connect.
Awesome, man. Take care.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.